It's been several months since I embarked on trying to make a short film in Blender. So over the summer I've had other projects, game competitions and whatever else, so I haven't really made much progress. One of the biggest things I've struggled with, however, and probably the biggest blocker in terms of moving forward with this, is trying to get a consistent way to render line art. With a lot of 3D animation stuff these days, you've very likely seen Spider-Verse films, the latest Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtle film, and all these kind of really cool stylized renders where they're using a combination of 2D and 3D to create like a really unique look. I am a one-man band, so it's unlikely I'm going to be able to do anything of that kind of level of quality, but my plan was to use Blender's Freestyle renderer to do most of the line work. However, what this has shown is inconsistency when you render things that are animated. So what I'm about to show you is my really hacky way to essentially get lines in a very cheap way. It's still using the Blender Compositor, but I feel like it's a bit more lightweight than maybe doing things with inverse hulls and whatever else to then fake lines and stuff. So in this example, I will be using the Blender Compositor, and this will be as quick, if not quicker, than using the Freestyle add-on, and avoids the complexities of doing things with, say, grease pencil or inverse hull things. So if you don't know, the inverse hull effect is basically you have a duplicate of the mesh, and basically what you do is you flip the normals, and then you have this kind of outline, like so. And that works for most things, I suppose. I mean, if it's quite a simple geometry, but when you have complex or overlapping geometry, then this kind of this cheat kind of fails. So if I just skip ahead into the Compositor, what you'll typically see when you go straight in, bear in mind, I should start by saying you need to go use nodes, and then you'll see these things on there. And then what you might want to do, just to add in a view of how it will look without having to pop up the render window, just go add output and then do viewer. And what this will give you is, if I plug it into the image, that shows me what I'll be seeing. So first of all, I'm going to turn off the line art. So go back to the options here, uncheck Freestyle and make sure that's not rendering anymore. Then what I want to use instead, and this is a fairly simple pipeline, what I want to do first of all is make sure I'm rendering, go to render layers, the Z component. What that is the distance of whatever object it is, or pixel, how far that is away from the camera. So if I render again, you don't see anything there, but if I go back to the Compositor, what I can then do is, if I show you the depth map, it doesn't look like you can see much at the moment. What you have to do as a first step is add in a map node. And what we're doing is, what should be happening is you should be getting a value between 0 and 1. As in, like, 1 is the closest and 0 is the furthest from the camera, I think. So what we want to do is just basically change this. So the input, because we get basically a much greater range of values, and I want to map this input to 0 to 1 again, so then I can use that in shaders and whatever else. So that's looking pretty good. Now, this is something I'd only just discovered, which is really cool. I can't remember who, where I found out, but essentially this is a really cheap way of doing sort of find edges effect in Photoshop. And if you haven't seen that before, I'll just show you. So say we have our image. So in Photoshop, you've got a filter called Find Edges. Stylize, Find Edges, like so. And then you can, get basically a hard edge, hard sort of cartoony style edge. I just whizzed straight over. I just skipped straight through that. Sorry, I'll do that process again. Hang on, so you can actually see what I did. So in Photoshop, you've got a filter called Stylize Find Edges. And what that is essentially doing this. You duplicate the layer, you do a filter, blur, Gaussian blur. Then what you do is a difference between that and the layer below. And you'll see if I invert this now, whoops, and then basically up the contrast here, you can see that's what the find edges is doing essentially. It's called, there's a YouTuber called Ace Roller, which I'll link in the description, who explains this much better than I can. But essentially that's what it's doing. It's saying, take two images, blur one of them, and then where there's a difference in those, or where the pixels are slightly different, we can kind of accentuate that, and that gives us our edges effectively. So what I'm going to do is that same effect here. You can essentially achieve all of that with a filter under here. So we go into add filter, add that to the chain, and then we go Laplace. And now you can see already we've got a very faint outline. And then what we want to do is the dilate erode node. And this is usually for mattes and when you're compositing things like blue screen and chroma key and all that kind of stuff, or borders and whatever else. But what we can do with this, we can actually just use this to make this border a bit thicker. And one extra step, which is also always helpful, is we can do either another map range, or we can do a color ramp, which I think might be easier. I might just do that. So color ramp. This works much the same as the map range node, but I can achieve two things in one. So one, I want to invert this so the black is white and the white is black. And if we bump this down here, there's a bit of trial and error with this, obviously. But yeah, you can see that's kind of working. I might just change the distance down to 2. Let's see. Yep, that looks all right. And just to smooth it out a bit, I could add another blur. So just go filter, add a fast blur like a Gaussian. Let's just do 2. Let's see how that looks. Not bad. So I mean, again, it's not, if this isn't perfect, so let's just zoom in. I mean, it's not amazing looking, but for the purposes that I'm looking to use it for, this will kind of achieve that effect. So just to go back over that chain, we start with a map range, which this gives us the range from 0 to 1 for the depth. Then we use that depth in this Laplace filter, like so. And then we use this dilate erode node to then thicken those borders. We then invert that using the color ramp. And then finally we input that color ramp into a blur node, like so. And then that just kind of smooths it off a bit. And that gives us our overlay. So the final step is to recombine this with the original image. So we'll just do a color mix node, add that in there. Then what we can do is feed that original image into the bottom node like so. And then what we want to do is we want the line part feeding into the bottom node here. And then if you want to reduce the sort of opacity of the lines, you can just drag around this factor. So if you want them quite subtle, leave it about there, like 35, or move all the way up to the top. So if I render this now, oh, yeah, final thing. So the Compositor has a viewer and it has a composite sort of output. So if you want to be able to see this, you want to feed that into the composite output as well. If I hit F9, there you go. So that's my render. And what I can do now is if I render this back out to a video, I'll show you the final thing. Hopefully that was of use to you. Right now, until they fix the issues with Freestyle and the glitching and stuff where you have animated objects, this is my shortcut to doing the almost a similar effect without having to resort to Grease Pencil or any other third-party add-ins. So this is purely vanilla Blender. Do check out Ace Roller's channel because he has some phenomenal videos on shader technology and the maths and the techniques behind certain shader effects, and really sort of goes into incredible detail and is very educational. And I probably wouldn't have discovered this if it hadn't been for his video on the difference of Gaussian. So do check it out. I've put a link in below. So now I think I've solved the outline problem. I think I can carry on animating stuff and sort of building some scenes. So I should hopefully over the winter make some good progress on the film. In the meantime, I have recently participated in another 48-hour game competition, so I might do another video imminently on that. Thanks again for watching. If you're interested in following the progress of this, then I guess subscribe, and then whenever I do the next one, you'll know when it's published, I suppose. So yeah, do that, and yeah, see you next time.